It is the most famous song in the world. We dim the lights. We bring out a cake on fire. We force a child to spit on it while making a secret wish. It looks innocent. But historically, a birthday was considered the most dangerous day of your life, a time when demons were closest to stealing your soul. To understand why we put fire on food, we have to travel back to ancient Greece, specifically to the Temple of Artemis. Artemis was the goddess of the hunt, but more importantly, she was the goddess of the moon. The ancient Greeks wanted to offer her something that symbolized her power, so they baked cakes. But not just any cakes. They made them round to mimic the shape of the full moon. However, a cake sitting on an altar looks dead. The moon glows, the moon shines. So, to make the cake alive like the moon, they stuck lit candles into it. The flickering fire gave the cake a mystical glowing aura in the dark temple. But the candles served a second, more practical spiritual purpose: prayer. The Greeks believed that the gods lived on Mount Olympus, high above the clouds. Human voices were too weak to reach them. But smoke rises. Smoke ignores gravity. They believed that the smoke from a candle was a spiritual elevator. By blowing out the candle, you were releasing the prayer. You were sending a signal up to Artemis. If the smoke rose straight up, the goddess was listening. So, originally, the candles weren't about years of life. They were a communication device with the divine. But when Christianity took over Rome, this practice was banned. In fact, for the first few centuries of Christianity, celebrating a birthday was considered a sin. Why? Because only pagans celebrated birthdays. Christians celebrated death days, the day saints died and entered heaven. It took 1,000 years for the birthday cake to return, and when it did, it came back in the dark forests of Germany. Let's move to 18th century Germany. This is where the modern birthday party was invented, but it was called KINDERFEST. And it wasn't a party in the way we think of it today. It was a protection ritual. In the 1700s, child mortality was terrifyingly high. Sickness, disease, and the cold claimed nearly half of all children before they reached adulthood. Because of this, a child's birthday wasn't just a milestone, it was a survival victory. But there was a superstition. German folklore believed that on the anniversary of your birth, the veil between the spirit world and the human world became thin. On your birthday, your soul was loose. This made children incredibly vulnerable to the evil eye, jealous spirits, and demons who wanted to steal their life force. So, the parents organized a Kinderfest not to spoil the child, but to surround them with a protective circle of adults. The cake was central to this protection. They placed candles on the cake, one for every year the child had survived. But, and this is the crucial part, they added one extra candle in the middle. It was called the Lebenslicht, the light of life. This candle represented the hope for another full year of life. Here is the strict rule of the Kinderfest. The candles were lit first thing in the morning, and they had to burn all day long. If a candle burned down, it was immediately replaced. If the flame went out, it was a terrible omen. It meant the child would die before their next birthday. The parents watched that fire like guards watching a gate. The fire was the child's soul. The cake was only eaten after dinner, once the day was safely over. So, the happy candles you see today originated as a desperate anxiety ritual by parents terrified of losing their children. Now, let's talk about the wish. Why do we tell children, "Don't tell anyone your wish, or it won't come true"? This sounds like a playground rule, but it is actually a remnant of ancient witchcraft belief. In the world of magic and spirits, names and words have power. If you speak your desire out loud, two things happen. First, the jinx, evil spirits, who are always listening, especially on your birthday, will hear what you want. Since they are malicious, they will do everything in their power to stop it from happening. Second, the power leak. By speaking it, you dissipate the energy. So, the wish must remain silent. It must be locked inside your mind. This brings us back to the smoke. When the child blows out the candles at the end of the Kinderfest, the massive cloud of smoke rises. Because the wish was silent, the smoke carries the encrypted message up to the heavens or to the ancestors. Only the higher powers can read the wish in the smoke. The demons on earth are left confused. It is a form of spiritual cryptography. And what about the one-breath rule? You must blow them all out in one breath. This is a test of vitality. Breath is life, spiritus. If the child has strong lungs and can extinguish the fire in one go, it proves they have a strong life force. They are strong enough to survive the coming year. If they leave candles burning, it suggests weakness, a gap in the armor. It implies that the light of life is struggling against the darkness. For a long time, this ritual was only for the rich. Why? Because ingredients were expensive. In the Middle Ages, sugar was a luxury spice imported from the East. It was worth its weight in gold. Ordinary peasants didn't have sweetened cakes. They had bread and candles. Beeswax candles were expensive. Tallow candles made from animal fat smelled like burning meat and were too gross to put on food. So only the aristocracy could afford to burn clean, wax candles on a sugary cake. It wasn't until the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century that this changed. Factories started mass-producing cheap paraffin candles. Shipping lanes made sugar and cocoa affordable. Suddenly, the Kinderfest ritual trickled down to the working class, but as it spread, it lost its fear factor. The Lebenslicht, lifelight, became just one to grow on. The demons were replaced by clowns. The protective circle of adults was replaced by school friends. The survival ritual became a consumerist party. But the core actions, the fire, the silence, the smoke, remained exactly the same. We kept the mechanics of the magic, but forgot the meaning of the spell. There is one final grotesque irony to this tradition. Think about what you are actually doing. You have a delicious, sugary food item that everyone is about to eat, and you invite the birthday person, often a child, a super spreader of germs, to take a deep breath and forcefully exhale over the entire surface of the food. In any other context, this is disgusting. If you blew on a steak at a restaurant before serving it, people would be horrified. But on a birthday, we cheer for it. A study by Clemson University found that blowing out candles increases the bacteria on the frosting by 1,400%. You are literally coating the cake in a biofilm of saliva. During the Spanish flu of 1918, and more recently during the COVID-19 pandemic, health officials tried to kill this tradition. They suggested waving the candles out or using a separate blowing cupcake. But they failed. Just like the handshake, the ritual is too deep in our reptile brain. We don't care about the germs, we care about the magic. We need to extinguish the fire. We need to complete the cycle. The biological risk is ignored because the spiritual need is stronger. So, the next time you find yourself in a dark room, the door opens, the flickering light enters, the people around you start chanting that monotonous rhythmic song, "Happy Birthday to You." Look at the scene with fresh eyes. You are witnessing a pagan temple ceremony. You are seeing the German parents of the 1700s terrified that their child won't make it through the winter. You are watching a human being engage in a silent negotiation with the gods, using smoke as a messenger. We think we are modern, rational people with our smartphones and our science. But once a year, we turn off the electric lights. We light a fire, and we stare into the flame, hoping that the darkness won't take us. So, make a wish. But remember, don't tell anyone, because the spirits are still listening.